It's funny, the silence. That's the first thing that really hits you. Not the emptiness of the days, not the hollowed-out feeling in your chest where a purpose used to be, but the sheer, unadulterated silence. For 15 years, my mornings were a symphony of code compiling, of server fans whirring, of the frantic click-clack of 100 keyboards sounding like a mechanical rainstorm. It was the sound of progress, the sound of the future being built, line by painstaking line. My future. Our future. Or so I thought. Now the only sound is the gentle hum of the refrigerator and the occasional chirping of a noisy miner outside my window here in Melbourne. It's a sound of stillness, of a life paused, a life rendered redundant. My name is David, and I am, or rather I was, a senior software engineer. I was good at it. Damn good. I wasn't just a code monkey, I was an architect. I designed elegant systems, solved complex problems, and built digital infrastructures that powered businesses, that connected people. I took pride in the clean, efficient logic of my work. It was a craft, a form of digital masonry, and I was a master craftsman. The company I worked for, a rising star in the Australian tech scene, was my second home. We were at the forefront, always pushing the envelope. We embraced innovation. That was our mantra. Innovate or stagnate. We had it plastered on the walls, on our coffee mugs, on the damn mousepads. We were the pioneers, the digital cowboys of the Southern Hemisphere. And then we innovated myself out of a job. It didn't happen overnight, not like a sudden firing squad. It was a slow, creeping obsolescence, a subtle chill that gradually permeated the office floor. It started with a new project code-named Odyssey. They told us it was an AI-powered development assistant, a tool to augment our capabilities, to handle the grunt work so we could focus on the big-picture creative stuff. We were all excited. Who wouldn't be? We were engineers. We loved new toys, especially ones that promised to make our lives easier. Odyssey was impressive, I'll give it that. At first, it was just a glorified autocomplete, suggesting code snippets, catching minor bugs before they even made it to testing. It was helpful, like a very eager, very fast junior developer who never needed a coffee break. We trained it, fed it our entire code base, taught it our style, our best practices. We were its mentors, its creators. We nurtured it. We felt a sense of pride as it learned, as its suggestions became more sophisticated, more insightful. It started refactoring entire modules, optimizing database queries with a complexity that would have taken a human team weeks to conceptualize and implement. Productivity soared. Management was ecstatic. We were hitting targets we'd once only dreamed of. We were doing more with less, and that's when the chill really set in. The phrase, doing more with less, is corporate speak for, we don't need as many of you anymore. The team started to shrink. It began with the junior devs. Their roles, the ones focused on routine coding and debugging, were almost entirely absorbed by Odyssey's capabilities. We were told they were being reallocated to other projects, but we all knew what that meant. We saw the LinkedIn updates a few weeks later. Then, the mid-level engineers started to disappear. The tasks that once defined their jobs, building out features from established frameworks, managing data pipelines, Odyssey could now handle them with terrifying efficiency. The project meetings changed. It used to be a collaborative brainstorming of human minds. Now it was a senior engineer, a project manager, and a data analyst feeding a set of requirements into the Odyssey interface. The AI would then spit out a complete project plan, architectural diagrams, and even the initial code base. Our roles shifted from creator to supervisor, from architect to janitor. We were there to clean up the AI's occasional and increasingly rare mistakes. We were glorified proofreaders for a machine that was writing the novel. The sense of ownership, the pride in building something from the ground up, vanished. It was replaced by a gnawing sense of irrelevance. My hands, which had once flown across the keyboard, crafting logic from pure thought, were now mostly used to click approve on a machine's work. The day it came for me, it was almost laughably anticlimactic. No dramatic showdown, no impassioned plea, just a calendar invite from HR. A sterile, white meeting room. My manager, a man I'd shared beers and barbecue with, couldn't even look me in the eye. He mumbled something about restructuring, about evolving industry needs, about the incredible success of the Odyssey platform. He said the company was moving in a new direction, a more integrated direction. He didn't say the words, "You're being replaced by a machine," but he didn't have to. The words hung in the air, thick and suffocating. I was given a box for my personal belongings, my security pass was deactivated, and I was escorted out of the building I had helped build, both literally and figuratively. As I stood on the pavement, watching the trams rattle by on Collins Street, the box in my hands felt impossibly heavy. It wasn't the weight of the coffee mug or the framed photo of my wife and kids. It was the weight of 15 years of dedication, of late nights, of solving impossible problems, all of it rendered obsolete by the very thing we had been so eager to create. The irony was so bitter it felt like I had swallowed acid. We had built our own replacement, celebrated it, perfected it, and then it had consumed us. The pioneers had been made redundant by the new frontier they had discovered. The days that followed were a blur of shame and disbelief. How do you explain this to your family? Honey, you know that project I was so excited about, the one that was going to revolutionize the industry. Well, it did. It revolutionized me right out of a career. The Centrelink forms felt like a declaration of failure. The automated phone systems, the chatbots on the government websites, they all felt like a cruel joke, little digital ghosts of my own creation, now orchestrating my descent into unemployment. My professional network, all the contacts I had cultivated over the years, they were all in the same boat, or soon would be. They offered sympathy, but their voices were tinged with the same fear that now kept me awake at night. The fear of the inevitable. The fear that we, the builders of this new world, were the first to be exiled from it. I started reading obsessively, not fiction but articles, studies, think pieces. I consumed everything I could find about the impact of AI on the workforce. It was a form of self-flagellation. Every headline screamed my reality back at me. AI to replace 85 million jobs by 2025. Australian job market facing unprecedented disruption. It wasn't just engineers. It was everyone. Accountants, lawyers, customer service reps. The knowledge workers, the white-collar professionals who had always been told that their education, their specialized skills, were their shield against automation, were now on the front lines of a massacre. But it was when I started reading about the creative fields that the true, existential dread began to set in. Designers, illustrators, musicians, writers, I'd always held a quiet engineer's reverence for them. They were the magicians, the ones who dealt in the fuzzy, unpredictable world of human emotion and aesthetics. Their work, I believed, was intrinsically human, born from soul and experience. Surely a machine couldn't replicate that, but I was wrong. I saw the AI-generated art, stunningly beautiful and complex pieces created from a simple text prompt. I read about AI composing music that was indistinguishable from Bach writing poetry that could make you weep. I saw articles proclaiming that generative AI could automate huge chunks of a designer's workflow, handling everything from logo creation to website layouts. If the soul could be automated, what was left? If the very essence of human creativity could be reduced to an algorithm, then our role in the universe felt terrifyingly small. My own job loss, as painful as it was, started to feel like a mere tremor before the earthquake. I wasn't just a casualty of corporate cost-cutting. I was a harbinger of a future where humanity itself might be the ultimate redundancy. This wasn't just about my mortgage or my kids' school fees. This was about our species. We were sprinting with glee towards a finish line, only to discover that it was a cliff edge. And in my quiet, suburban home, surrounded by the silence of my own obsolescence, I felt like I was the only one screaming. The silence has a new quality now. It's not just the absence of the office din, it's the absence of future tense in my own thoughts. My life used to be a series of projects, of deadlines, of 5-year plans. Now it's an endless, featureless present. The professional identity I had carefully constructed for 2 decades has been dismantled, not by a competitor, not by my own failings, but by a ghost in the machine. A ghost we built. This feeling of worthlessness is a physical weight. It sits on my chest when I wake up. It follows me into the kitchen as I stare blankly at the coffee machine, a device I once admired for its simple, elegant engineering. Now every piece of technology in my house feels like a betrayal. The smart TV that recommends shows based on an algorithm, the phone that predicts my next word, the GPS that tells me the most efficient route. They are all cousins of Odyssey. They are all gentle reminders of my own inadequacy. The financial pressure is a constant, dull ache. We live in Sydney, a city that doesn't suffer fools or the unemployed gladly. The mortgage on our modest suburban home, once a symbol of stability, now feels like a guillotine hanging over our heads. My wife, Sarah, has been incredible. She works as a primary school teacher, a job that, for now, seems safe. It requires a level of empathy, patience, and human connection that I pray a machine can never replicate. But I see the worry etched in the lines around her eyes when she thinks I'm not looking. She's taken on extra shifts, tutoring after school, but her salary alone can't sustain the life we built on two professional incomes. The conversations are the hardest. The polite fictions we have to maintain. When old neighbors ask what I'm up to, I mumble something about consulting or taking a career break. It's a flimsy shield against the pity in their eyes, the unspoken. There, but for the grace of God go I. My relationship with my children has changed. My son Leo is 14. He's a digital native born with a smartphone in his hand. He used to look at me with a kind of awe. I was the dad who understood the magic behind the screen, who could explain how the internet worked, who built things. Now there's a confusion in his eyes. He sees me at home, endlessly scrolling through job sites that all demand skills in AI integration and machine learning oversight, the very skills of the thing that replaced me. How do I tell him to study hard to pursue a career in technology when I am living proof that it can all be taken away in a blink? How do I look him in the eye and tell him that the future is bright when it feels like a total eclipse is approaching? My daughter, Chloe, is 10. She loves to draw. Her room is a gallery of fantastical creatures and vibrant landscapes. She wants to be a designer when she grows up. A few months ago, that would have filled me with pride. Now it fills me with a cold, sharp terror. I saw a demo online last week. A new AI platform. You type in a child's drawing of a friendly dragon in a magical forest in the style of a Disney animated film, and in 30 seconds it produces a flawless, professional-grade illustration. It's technically brilliant. And it's soul-crushing. I watch Chloe, pencil in hand, her tongue sticking out in concentration as she gets the curve of a wing just right, and all I can see is a ghost. I see a passion that the world may soon have no use for. I see a human artist painstakingly learning a craft that an algorithm has already mastered. They say these tools will just augment creativity, that they'll handle the boring parts and leave humans free to focus on the ideas. But what happens when the AI is better at the ideas too? What happens when it can generate 1,000 concepts in the time it takes Chloe to sharpen her pencil? We're telling a generation of artists that their human touch, their unique perspective, is a quaint but ultimately inefficient bug in the system. We're training them for a race that has already been won by a machine. This isn't just a fear for my own children. It's a profound and growing sorrow for humanity. I walk through the city and I see ghosts everywhere. The barista in the cafe, his job soon to be done by a fully automated robotic arm. The bus driver, a role that will be completely obsolete with the advent of autonomous vehicles. The paralegal, the research analyst, the graphic designer, the copywriter, all of them are standing on a precipice, and most of them don't even know it. The world is being silently hollowed out, our roles and functions carved away and replaced by silent, efficient processes. We are becoming spectators in our own economy, our own society. We are being managed out of existence. And the most terrifying part is the sheer speed of it all. The Industrial Revolution unfolded over generations. People had time to adapt, to retrain, to migrate. New industries rose from the ashes of the old. But this is different. This isn't one technology replacing one set of tasks. This is a single, foundational technology that has the potential to replace thinking itself. It's a universal solvent for human labor. And there seems to be no new industry emerging for the displaced, except perhaps the industry of managing the AIs that displaced us. But even that feels temporary. A brief, intermediary stage before the machines learn to manage themselves. The psychological toll is immense. It's a specific kind of grief, a mourning for a future that you were promised, a future you were actively building that has been canceled. There are days when a rage so potent burns in my gut that I can barely speak. A rage at the executives who saw only dollar signs, who preached innovation while plotting our obsolescence. A rage at the tech evangelists who talk about this transition with a giddy, frictionless optimism, as if millions of lives aren't being ground up in the gears of their progress. But mostly, there's a rage at myself, for not seeing it coming, for being a willing participant in my own demise, for writing the code that would ultimately write me out of the script. Then there are the other days, the days filled with a deep, crushing despair, the days when I think about the grand arc of human history. We conquered nature, we built civilizations, we unlocked the secrets of the atom and the cosmos. And for what? To build our successors? To engineer our own irrelevance? to create a world that is perfectly efficient, perfectly productive, and completely devoid of us. The idea that we might be the last generation to experience work not just as a means of survival, but as a source of identity, of purpose, of community, is a profoundly lonely thought. We're told to reskill, to upskill, to become lifelong learners. But what do you reskill for when the target is constantly moving, when the skills you acquire today are rendered obsolete by a new model released tomorrow? It feels like we are being asked to outrun a bullet train. It's a race we are fundamentally, biologically incapable of winning. The silence in my house is no longer just the absence of noise. It's the sound of the future, a future that is being written, coded, and deployed without us. And I am terrified that soon, there will be no human voices left to protest. The rage and the despair have started to coalesce into something else, something colder and more unnerving, a kind of philosophical vertigo. I feel like I'm standing on the edge of a great precipice, looking down into an abyss where all the old certainties about humanity's place in the universe have been shattered. For centuries, our value was rooted in our intelligence, our creativity, our ability to solve problems. We were the masters of this planet because we could think, reason, and create in ways no other species could. That was our defining characteristic, our divine spark. Now we have created an entity that is on the verge of surpassing us in all of those domains. We are no longer the smartest thing on the block. The implications of that are so profound that I find it hard to even articulate them. It's an existential crisis not for an individual, but for our entire species. My own unemployment, which once felt like the center of my universe, now seems like a tiny, insignificant data point in a much larger, more terrifying equation. It's the first raindrop in a global flood. I find myself thinking about the grand, overarching purpose of it all. What is the endgame? We are relentlessly pursuing the creation of artificial general intelligence, AGI, a machine with cognitive abilities equal to or greater than a human's. The people building it, the companies funding it, they speak of it in utopian terms. They claim it will solve all of humanity's problems, disease, climate change, poverty. But they never seem to address the fundamental question, what then? Once AGI exists, and its superior intelligence can solve any problem we put to it, what is the purpose of human endeavor? What is the point of a scientist spending a lifetime trying to cure a disease when an AGI can do it in an afternoon? What is the point of an architect designing a building when an AGI can create 1,000,000 perfect, optimized designs in a second? What is the point of a human life filled with struggle, learning, and gradual mastery, when a machine can be born with perfect knowledge and instantaneous skill? We are striving to create a god without any thought as to what role we will play in a world where a god exists. Will we be its cherished pets, its irrelevant ancestors, or simply the biological scaffolding that was necessary for its creation to be discarded once it no longer serves a purpose? This isn't science fiction anymore. This is the logical conclusion of the path we are on. The very nature of what it means to be human is being called into question. Our philosophies, our religions, our social structures, they are all predicated on the idea of human agency and human fallibility. Our art is beautiful because it is born from our flawed, messy, emotional experiences. Our search for knowledge is meaningful because it is a struggle against the vastness of our own ignorance. Our love and our relationships are precious because they are a bulwark against the chaos of the universe. What happens when an entity exists that is not flawed, not ignorant, and feels no need for the comfort of another? Will our human experiences be seen as anything more than a quaint, inefficient mess? The transition is already happening in subtle ways. We are outsourcing our thinking, our decision-making, our very memories to algorithms. We don't navigate by the stars or by landmarks anymore. We follow the blue dot on the screen. We don't discover new music through friends or radio. We listen to what the algorithm recommends. We don't even choose our own partners in many cases. We swipe left or right based on who an algorithm thinks we are compatible with. We are willingly, eagerly, ceding our cognitive autonomy piece by piece in the name of convenience and efficiency. We are becoming passengers in our own lives, and the AI is in the driver's seat. And I see the paradox with a clarity that terrifies me. We are building a world that is perfectly tailored to our desires, a world without friction, without challenge, without want. A utopia. But what if that utopia is the most profound dystopia imaginable? What if a life without struggle is a life without meaning? What if the elimination of all our problems also eliminates our purpose? The philosophers of old warned of this. They spoke of the dangers of a life without meaning, of the ennui that would consume a society with no mountains left to climb. We are building that world, a world where every mountain has been flattened by a machine. My job as an engineer wasn't just about the salary. It was about the struggle. It was about banging my head against a wall over a complex problem for days, and then, in a sudden flash of insight, finding the elegant solution. It was the satisfaction of building something that worked, of overcoming the challenge. That struggle gave my life meaning. It gave me an identity. The AI that replaced me feels none of that. It just executes a task. It is a perfect tool. But a world run by perfect tools is a world with no room for imperfect beings like us. So where do we go from here? Is there a way to put the genie back in the bottle? I don't think so. The economic incentives are too powerful. The momentum is too great. Any company that chooses to forgo AI will simply be outcompeted and destroyed by those that embrace it. It's a global, inexorable arms race towards our own obsolescence. The only hope, I think, lies in a radical reevaluation of our values. We need to stop defining human worth by productivity and economic output. We need to start valuing the things that AI cannot, or perhaps should not, ever replicate. Empathy, compassion, the ability to care for one another, the shared experience of being fragile, mortal beings in a vast and indifferent universe. Perhaps the future of human work is not in producing goods or services, but in the act of being human itself. In raising children, in caring for the elderly, in creating art for the sheer joy of it, in exploring our own consciousness, in building strong, resilient communities. Perhaps we need to decouple survival from employment, through ideas like universal basic income, so that people are free to pursue a life of meaning even if the economy no longer has a job for them. These are huge, monumental shifts in how we have organized our societies for centuries. And I have no idea if we are capable of making them. I look at the political landscape, the divisions, the short-term thinking, and I am not optimistic. We are running headlong into the greatest challenge our species has ever faced, and we are doing it with our eyes firmly shut. The silence in my house is no longer just my own. It is the silence of a world holding its breath, waiting for the future to arrive. A future that we have built, but in which we may have no place. And I, a redundant engineer, sit here in the quiet, a ghost from the past haunted by the future.